presidents, insulate them from the realities that obtain on the ground. Are these political semantics, political jargons to confuse the masses, as opposed to what you're saying, Honorable, that a head of state is given intelligence information, for instance, every week, and there are different avenues of information that, channels that he gets information from?
Yeah, because the issue is that you are given that information. Also, it depends on, as a president, who you listen to.
Okay.
Okay. So for me, is that to say the president has failed because of those around him? No. So I want to try to answer why we didn't give that advice during PF.
Yes.
We provided that guidance. We didn't need to go out and shout to say we're providing these supports or we're providing, but you can only to an extent provide that information. But it's upon the leadership, the powers that be, to apply themselves, as it were. We spoke behind the scenes to say how can this be better be addressed, as it were. So for me, it also goes to President HH. President HH, he has information. He knows what is obtaining right now on the ground. Even when he was actually pronouncing himself to say Zambia is thriving in terms of democracy, he knows what is obtaining on the ground. So that being the case, when he gets that information, let him be applied to the best and to the interest of the Zambians, as it were. No, so for me is that leaders must listen, must do more of listening, and do what people are asking for.
Okay. Honorable, you are a former member of parliament. Let me get your thoughts on CDF, or Constituency Development Fund, as it were. It has been increased. There are pronouncements that it's going to be increased each and every year. Now, Honorable, let's look at the application of Constituency Development Fund and its access as well. Let's zero in on this particular issue.
Yeah, when I was in Parliament, the allocation was about 1.6 million. Of course, the intention to increase CDF is a good one.
Okay.
It's a good one. That said, but I think there are thematic issues which this government needs to address. If at all this CDF can reach the most vulnerable and drive the development agenda which is supposed to do. So the first aspect is that when I was member of Parliament, the capacity of the councils was a problem.
Okay.
We had audit queries time and again based on that 1.6. Okay, audit queries are at times initial to implement these projects. Okay, so it boils down to institutional capacity of these councils. We'll talk about institutional capacity, we'll talk about the resources, competencies, and structures. Now that the amounts have been increased, what is the institutional capacity to handle that? If there are challenges to handle 1.6, so there is need for government to capacitate these councils to effectively apply themselves. And furthermore, they must look at all the processes and mechanisms which have been put in place to provide for appraisal, identification, appraisal of this CDF implementation, and so on and so forth. What mechanisms have been put in place? What seamless mechanisms are put in place to ensure that there is efficiency and effectiveness in how this CDF is implemented?
Okay. Now, Honorable, just on that one, is this why we are seeing various councils being cited in the Auditor General's report and being called to appear before the Parliamentary Accounts Committee or local government? Is this why we are seeing councils being called to appear and being cited in the Auditor General's report because of the lack of proper mechanisms to beef up capacity to the councils?
Yeah, 28 million, 0.3, it's a lot of money.
Now 30.
Now 30.
Now 30.
Now 30. It's a lot of money. There is need to capacitate these councils, so that they have the capacity to apply themselves in terms of resources. Budget allocation for operations must be adequate. and also in terms of relevant competences required to apply themselves. Mind you, what has happened is that, for example, you've seen some departmental budgets being collapsed to CTF. Previously, Ministry of Health could buy ambulances, but that has been collapsed to CDF. The police used to buy the vehicles, that has been collapsed to CDF. And you ask yourself, much as I know that these huge projects are centrally procured, but do the councils have the capacity to handle all those processes as it were? What capacities have they been given or competencies? So there's need to do that.